Good evening. This is Tom Alexander. It's Tuesday, January 18th. It is 9:31 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S. I have been out of town. I just got back in town. I had intended to return yesterday, but we were on top of a mountain and it snowed. So we were iced in for a day, but it was a great time. But it's good to be back. Big day today. A lot of things happened today, and some of these things have implications that are perhaps more significant than the next 2 or 3 days. The next 2 or 3 days are going to be rather interesting as well. Let's show my show one of my screens. Okay, here are the cash daily indices of the 4 US primary trading indices. And I'm going to take them one at a time, but I want to look at each of them. But before I take them individually, I want you to notice the Russell. The Russell is leading the way down, and the Russell is about to take out, or has it? Perhaps it has. It's at the very, very low extreme of a multi-month balance area that began forming a year ago. This is sort of, you could make the case, okay, the extreme goes down to here. Well, you're right at it. You can see it's uncanny how many times the Russell has tested this level and rejected it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's, you can agree or disagree with which one of those I consider tests, but I consider them tests because in each instance there was immediate rejection of that level, and it was close enough into where we closed today that I'm going to count it as a test. Okay, so what happens now? I mean, you can make a case from looking at the Russell that an important intermediate term top is in place. Now, what would invalidate that idea? I think what would invalidate that, or at least rescue a bullish scenario, is if the Russell were to trade above 2287 sometime in the next few weeks, a month or so, a few days, who knows with this market. But as long as we're below this level, it's a concern for the overall bull market that we're in. Now, I've said many, many times that typically stock market tops take a while to form. Sometimes they take many, many months. The 2000 top took many, many months. And they're almost always characterized by divergence at the top, where you have all this disparate activity among the indices with clear outperformers and clear underperformers. In this case, we've had the clear outperformer has been the Russell. The overperformer, at least until very, very recently, was the NQ. And most recently, we've had the S&P and the Dow trade to new highs. So that's sort of bigger picture stuff, right? Now, there is this level that the Russell is just above that is a reasonable auction market candidate for a low. The others, it's a little bit iffier. And I'm going to go with the S&P. So we've taken out this entire buying tail. There's a buying tail here that we closed into. But to me, the really, really, really important level is down here around these December lows. Now, because we are sort of in the abyss in the S&P, today could be the low. I don't think it is, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Brett was way too extreme to the downside, and typically price is going to go lower following a momentum low like that. But this would be a candidate for this market to stop. This is the next auction market level of significance in the ES, the ES, the S&P. And let's just see, if we were to trade into the midpoint of this range here, that would be another 1.5%. So that's not that far away. Okay, let's take a look at the NDX. Okay, the NDX really is in the at the edge of the abyss. It has taken out Gosh, it's taken out the December lows. It's about to take out the January 10th low. And then below there, you're really looking at the October. This is a rather broad period in here. I would think the extreme of this range probably right here. I would be surprised if we get to straight to here and we don't have some sort of significant bounce. And but once again, there's no magic number here that this market has to stop at. There's not a lot on the horizontal scale over here of recent volume of auction market price levels or price points to point to, and I don't do the magic number game. Now, if we look at the Dow is holding up relatively well. Again, it's sort of in the abyss. It's in all this elevator shaft that was created by the ramp off the 1220 low. So if we say, okay, this is that low, and it's probably, I don't like to use a single price because it seldom works that way. There's a range here, and then below here, I think you're looking somewhere in here maybe. So the point is the indices are, for looking at the chart, it's not clear that, oh, wow, there's an area that is likely to hold all of the indices suddenly. So I don't see that. Okay, let's take a look at the profile structure. What does that tell us? Okay, this is the January auction, December auction, November auction, etc. This doesn't tell us a whole lot. But looking at this, what you can see now is that we're trading below value of the past 3 months. We're trading below the high volume node from November, the high volume node from December, and certainly what is the high volume node for January so far. And then if I were to, which I'll do, if I were to make one structure out of all of these, this is what you're looking at, and you have this glob of volume up here that doesn't tell you as much as a lot of quote unquote market profile people will tell you that it does. I think what we have to do to determine if there is additional information that's useful here, let's parse out. Now, this is a little more useful. We had this huge conviction day to the downside. So today's high, short term, is the line in the sand. It is what is most important. If we were to get back above this level, close back above today's session highs by all 4 of the indices, that would be a pretty good sign a short-term low is in place. Now, to the downside, of course, then you still have the December lows down here. Now let's take a look at, that was the ES, here's the NQ. And now there's a little more bearish picture here and information, because what we have is a clear migration of value lower by the high volume nodes. You can see lower highs in each auction. You can see lower lows in each auction. This looks like an incomplete profile structure, but once again, the line in the sand under a bullish scenario is today's session high. Where this thing might stop, well, there's a volume node down here in October, and then the October lows. That's a best guess. YM. Now you can see the YM is held up. The YM was the one that showed the most strength into the last top, but now it's sort of into, and we'll split this out. So, again, it's a guess, and this would be a guess, my guess, as a downside if we were to continue lower immediately into this level. And then we get to Mr. Russell. There we go. And you can see we're flirting with all of these incredibly important lows. Really, from last February was when the stopping point in this particular auction. And then we had spikes down in March, May, July, August, not quite as severe, but one in September, certainly December. And now we've closed below the December low. And where this stops is a guess at this point. Now, let's take a look at the technical information, which I think is critical. And those of you that have been following for any length of time know that I lean on this breadth work pretty heavily, especially near lows. I'm gonna get rid of some of this stuff so we can see what's going on. And notice breadth went out negative 2,300 or a little bit lower today. And it has, I've been putting this in reports and talking about this. This is something that has not happened for 2 years. The last time we had a cluster of negative breadth like this, and it was more extreme than this because it was like, for 3 weeks, we had negative 2,000 breadth readings. It seemed like every other day. But this is unusual. So what I think is happening now, I think we are in the process of putting in, if we're in a bull market, I think we're putting in a very significant low. Now, if we're not in a bull market, we're not going to know until there is a bottom and then that rally and then the next low. But that's getting ahead of things. That's not useful information for a trader. And from a trader's perspective, even on a swing trade basis, there's plenty of trading between now and the time we can say, oh, the bull market is over. That's a dangerous game. I'll leave that to other people to guess when bull markets begin and end. But what I'm seeing now is, we had the 10-day moving average of NYSE advancing issues reach an extreme. And I talked about this at the time. I also talked about the 5-day, which was also a 3-day and a 4-day extreme. We had not seen extremes like this since the March 2020 low. And it's interesting that typically what happens is these will mark momentum peaks, and then price begins to slow its immediate trend until it finally rolls over and you get some sort of a corrective retracement back into the range that created this. What this did, it stopped on a dime and now it's rolling over big time. And with breadth negative 2,000, what you are typically looking for is a momentum low followed by a lower low in price and then a big rally. So time-wise, and I know you guys hear me say this, but this is as close as you can get. Time-wise, we're close to a low of some degree. Now, price-wise, I also think we're relatively close, and I would be surprised if we were to trade much below this December 3rd low before we get an attempt at a rather significant rally. So the next few days into this week is going to be very important. We have a monster quarterly option expiration this Friday. What happens directly into that and directly after that is going to be important. So we may not have, I think the market could very well be volatile for the next several days, and we'll keep an eye on it. But it's getting to the point where it is, especially today, it got really, really compressed to the downside. I mean, we're off significantly in a relatively short period of time. Off the print high here to the print low here, we're off 3.75% in just a few days. That's still pretty significant. So guys, I hope you found this helpful. I will keep you updated. Have a nice evening.